Hello, this is episode number 20. The topic is the beyond. Quotation. Life on earth, life in the other worlds, and all the types of life on earth and all the types of life in the other worlds are simply a question of choice. You choose to be that way, and you constantly choose to be this way or that, or choose that this or that is going to happen. And you also choose to think you are subjected to fate, or a necessity, or a law that compels you. Everything is a question of choice. Colony, year 1994. What was left after my final decision to leave my body for good were a few things I still needed to handle before I would disappear into the unknown. First, I had to find a solution for the management of my place and house, and also the final closure of every outer activity related to my previous business. After finishing these things in comparison small, I would need all the freedom I could muster in order to live a miserable existence without purpose. For this I prepared myself inwardly in a systematic way. And if, for whatever reason, I would change my mind while following the chosen course, if she suddenly decided that it was not yet the time for me to leave, I would be ready even for this solution. But I believed that I had to prepare myself for the transformation of the physical, one of the major goals in their yoga. I absolutely was committed to. Actually, my departure from the world of ignorance would help to achieve this goal, I believed. It was likely that the decisive progress would set in, because I further was convinced it was only truth that could solve the mystery of our existence. Exactly at this point of time, an invitation appeared in my postbox in the gate of my place. I had no idea how it was sent, how it got there, and who knew about me and my aspirations and plans. I was invited to attend a conference in Bangalore, organized by an Indian organization which promoted yoga, bioenergy, and alternative healing. I immediately answered that I would be happy to attend. The conference was to be in the coming month. Meanwhile, I was following my own program. The fierce tapasya I had decided for was fitting in well. 10 days before the conference in Bangalore, something happened inside my body. While meditating in my usual yoga postures, cross-legged on a mat on the floor, all of a sudden, out of the blue, in the area between my anus and my scrotum, at the base of my rump, a strong pressure developed. In yoga and medicine, this point is called the perineum. I had never experienced this sensation before and was taken by surprise. I put my attention on it. It increased gradually and gave a kind of physical pleasure. It did not feel uncomfortable at all. My whole body started involuntarily mildly shaking. As there was no pain nor any other adverse feeling involved, I gladly gave in to it, curious what was coming next. What was coming next is impossible to describe. The sensation of strong increasing pressure converted into a beam of an almost unbearable joy in my whole body. It was divine physical pleasure, better than any sex, involving but also the sexual organs. It was better than any orgasm, different, and at its peak conveying unimaginable bliss. It was lasting for about 10 minutes. My whole body was trembling and shaking, like the one of a madman. I was experiencing physical ananda. When it stopped, I collapsed, sinking to the ground. Afterwards, when I could gather something like a reasonable thought, my first reaction was that I had to do all I could to have it come back, not to lose it, to repeat it, to have more of it, to jump into it and forget something and everything else. I was craving for it, like an addict for the drugs, interrupted only by the fear that it would disappear. My heart was beating wildly. What if I never could have this again? The memory of utter physical bliss was replaced by this fear, the shocks like a shocks of lightning. I became desperate, crying out, "No, please, 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 do not stop this. Let me have it. Forever, I pray, let me have it. I will do anything to get it back." The thought to lose it terrified me. Shaking, I sat down in the same position, focusing my attention. Carefully, softly, I was searching inwardly for the same sensation, this mysterious pressure. And then indeed it did come back. I had gotten it back, and I repeated the movement again and again. Each time I did it, and I succeeded. I did not dare to believe it. I was indulging without restraints in divine bliss. I was trying it at least 20 times, and it came again and again. The moment I found the correct position, focused my attention, and did the special breathing, it came. I was the happiest being in the universe, smiling all over. Almost too shy to admit that I found the most precious secret treasure of this world, the Holy Grail. Gratitude and joy were flooding my being. But would it come back also the next day? The answer to this question became from then on my major concern. Day and night, time and again, before each next day, causing extreme anxiety. And it did keep on coming back. And it did come back the day after, and the day after that one. As I grew more confident with it, I started playing with it, and it was playing with me. It was like a lover residing in my womb and spine, giving me divine ecstasy, a continuous heavenly orgasm. I just had to sit down in this special way, feeling my perineum, focus my attention, breathe in a particular way into it, and I was in paradise. I could not think of anything else anymore. During the day and at night, the main focus of my attention centered on the next session to come. My whole body seemed to change. I was hardly eating. The sleep became erratic. I grew thinner within days. The sensitivity of my senses increased dramatically, and I started looking at everything from the point of view of a highly energized being, as if an uninterrupted current of power was flowing throughout my body. Meanwhile, the day of the international conference approached fast. The closer it came, the more increased my unwillingness to leave my present situation. But as I had paid already the registration fees and I had decided to go for it, I finally made up my mind to book the bus ticket to Bangalore, so that I would reach the night before the beginning of the conference. Also, I had no idea what was going on with me and my body. Nowhere I ever had heard of somebody having this type of experience, vaguely similar to what I was experiencing. But then one always could learn something new, and hopefully I might find some answers at the conference. So convincing myself this way, I went ahead to attend. The bus ride would take 14 hours. It started at 7 in the morning, and I would reach at night, having enough time to find a hotel. I knew Bangalore from some 15 years before, when I had visited together with Ko regularly some friends there. Ko was my previous friend. The location where the conference took place was close to the main business and tourist area of the megacity. Bangalore was the most western of all cities in India. One reason was its in comparison decent climate, as the city was almost 800 meters high above sea level. Many foreigners had settled down, and another reason for its attraction was the surrounding area, close to the southern Ghats of India, a lovely hilly landscape with tea, coffee and cardamom plantations, surrounded by wildlife sanctuaries. All the rich farmers with their families had their second place of residence in Bangalore. Sitting inside the bus, I felt mildly hot inside my body. It was not unpleasant, but I noticed it. The outside temperature was high as well, but the heat pervading my physical from inside had a distinct different quality. I felt softly tense, but very clear. I was curious what was expecting me. Surely all the major leading authorities of the country were attending, and hopefully also some from abroad. The vast traditions and deep culture and the ancient knowledge of India gave the best background for the development of energetic psychological disciplines and for the related research activities, which were the subject of this conference. No doubt that India was leading in this field, while now also other people from other countries were investing a lot of effort and money for progress in these areas. Bus rides in India, especially in local buses, are an experience one should have at least once in a lifetime. We living at the colony necessarily had it all the time. Men were sitting on one side, women with their children and babies on the other. Only husband and wife were allowed to sit together. But next to men, only men, and next to women, only women. Local buses were not air-conditioned, and it was always hot and sticky. Moreover, there were never enough buses available in India for the millions of her people. Thus, the lucky passengers could sit, and the others were standing. The babies, as babies are, were relieving themselves all the time, and as nappies were too expensive and unpractical, as a rule always some of the passengers were bound to get sick. The mixture of these different smells were indeed hard to take, and so everybody was really anticipating the next stop of the bus, which usually took place each 2 hours. At that period of time, there were still no toilets inside the bus or at bus stops, but there were lots of snacks and tea and coffee in small glasses, and dogs which removed the remnants. One gets used to this kind of things in India, and actually there is no choice. So I knew how to deal with the inconveniences of such a trip. One sinks into a kind of protecting dream reality, only marginally perceiving the surrounding and the events in them. The best solution always was to fall asleep. But I could not sleep. I was fully awake. My mind was clear and alert, my body full of unusual energy. This also did not change when we reached the city. The bus stations in large Indian cities are another worthwhile subject to study. Hundreds of buses competing with each other for place, stinking fumes, dirt, urine, thousands of passengers mercilessly trying to get a seat inside their respective buses first, chaos everywhere, yet everything somehow was working. After reaching the city, I took an auto rickshaw to the rich area of the town. Though the temperature was much lower than in the colony, I still felt hot. I was not tired, and I was not hungry, and I was not thirsty. Getting to the main avenue of the business quarter, I asked the driver to stop, got out and paid. I needed to walk. This way I could also search for the lodge or a hotel. I asked several people, requested information in tea stalls, and finally found a cheap place nearby. I did not want to take an expensive hotel as my budget was limited due to the construction of my new house. I did not mind to sleep in a cheap accommodation for 1 or 2 nights. In one of these places, the bed I was to sleep in was shown to me in a common sleeping hall without any other passenger and without any other cots. But some of them were lined up in a row. The large room was empty. No other bed was taken. My body suddenly felt tired, though I was not tired inwardly, and I did not feel inclined to search again for another lodge in the darkness. For one night this place would do, the more so as nobody else was inside the room. So I agreed, paid in advance for the bed, and was lying down. I still felt hot, but I kind of fell asleep. It was a strange sleep, with one part of me awake, but somewhere else. I woke up after 2 hours or so because I could feel a presence next to me. Disconcertedly, I opened my eyes. Inside the bed, next to mine, a stranger was lying, Indian. All the other beds in the room were empty, but he had laid down next to me, apparently a while ago, as he wore sleeping clothes. This whole situation was strange. He even opened his eyes and stared at me for a moment. I pretended not to notice it and turned to the other side. My mind got agitated. Something was wrong. There was no way I could fall asleep again. As I was considering how I should handle the situation, my feeling of uneasiness grew. It became worse and worse. Even a slight sensation of fear crept in. I decided I really did not like the guy and that there was definitely something weird with him. I decided I did not want to be next to such a being, whosoever he was, no matter what. I got up, took my bag, and left the place, extraordinarily relieved. I found another hotel after some time and booked a clean room, though more expensive. My body still felt too hot to be normal. I took a shower, but this did not help either. Remotely, I remembered the stranger in that cheap place. It was not a pleasant feeling when I connected. I even considered whether he had done something to me energetically, open as I was. I wanted to eat something, but I knew I could not. I took some water. I was lying down, but no sleep. The temperature of my body kept on being high. After about 2 hours tossing and turning, I admitted to myself that something was wrong with my system. Neither could I sleep nor eat, and I started feeling slightly sick in my stomach, with a remote headache. My condition worsened hour by hour. No sleep, no food, just water. And then there was this heat. And it even was increasing. It seemed to come out from the middle of my body. Again, never in my life had I experienced something like this. I spent the rest of the night awake, worrying. When it was time to get up in the morning, I did it slowly, managing only with all effort to dress myself. Outside the hotel, I quickly had to close my eyes. The bright sunlight was hurting it like crazy. Covering my eyes, I went stumbling into the direction of the Congress Hall. Walking somehow helped my strange physical condition. I became clearer in my head. The place was not more than 10 minutes walk away and easy to find. I reached. Trying to control the faltering steps of my legs, I approached the entrance. Many participants already were crowding in front. There was an atmosphere of anticipation and expectancy. I carefully steered through the crowd and went to the registration office. My name was there. I paid the entrance fee and got my name tag. I knew I had to relax and focus my attention if I wanted to get some benefit out of this gathering. I studied the program, speeches, sessions, talks, many questions. My head was aching and inside whirling. Everything around me was as if in a haze. I tried not to feel the heat in my body, but any effort in this direction only increased my headache. I concentrated with all my strength and finally chose to attend the first presentation. This helped somewhat, though the topic and content of the lecture eluded me. I chose the second talk and the third with the same result. Some of the things they said I found interesting, but most of it I did not even register. As I still could not take any food, I went during the lunch break back to my hotel lying down. Besides my weird condition, I was angry with myself because I was spending a lot of money, missing probably some important information, and it was all for nothing. But there was not anything I could do about the way my body and my whole system were reacting. It clearly had to do with my latest experiences, but in ways I could not even imagine, lying there in my hotel on my bed and considering. Again, the thought struck me that I could ask some of the participants whether they had any idea what was going on with me. After all, the whole conference was about bioenergy, healing and consciousness. If I found the right person, I had a good chance of getting some help, or at least some information. What I could do. This prospect gave me back some energy. I got up and carried my body back to the conference. While entering the main hall there, the temperature of my body again had increased. By then I guessed that it must have reached at least 40 Celsius. It was the end of the lunch break and the hall was filled with people who were waiting for the next lecture. So it was a good opportunity to find somebody who knew more than I did. With unsteady steps, I found my way through the crowd, staring at everybody like a lunatic. Most people reacted adversely, moving and turning away. Then I found an elderly man who seemed to be friendly. He looked at me curiously as I approached him. In a coarse voice I asked, "Excuse me, sir, can I disturb you for a moment?" Looking at me in a strange way, he made one step backward. He answered, "My God, sir, you are really hot. Why are you so hot? What is happening to you?" I said, "This is the point, sir. I do not know why I am so hot. And this is exactly what I wanted to talk to you. I was hoping you can give me some answers." He stared at me, his eyes rolling, and made another step back, while suddenly starting to yell, "He's hot, he's hot, he's burning." Immediately I became the center of attention. People gathered, made a safe circle of 3 meters distance empty space around me, staring, discussing, and gesticulating wildly. But nobody stepped forward towards me. There I was, helpless and short of collapsing, my whole being in a wild turmoil. I grasped soon that nobody knew what was going on with me. And I only wanted to disappear and became invisible as fast as I could. As I was walking ahead, a passage of several meters space was opening up in front of me. Everybody was too scared to come close. I remembered also one fellow waving at me from a distance and yelling, "Take my advice, go to the Himalayas and have a bath in ice water. This will help you." Another one stopped me at the exit. "Young friend, your energy system is ruined. The bodies have shifted out of line. You want help? You have to come to Bombay to my office. But my service will not be free. You will have no other option." By then, the pain had started to become unbearable. I just wanted to leave. Passing by him, I hardly could walk anymore. Reaching the hotel, I considered my options, hardly being able to think, the burning pain all over my body. It penetrated even the eyes and the teeth and the hair. My body became stiff. One thought dominated. Go home. You have to go home now. I grabbed my bag, managed to reach the lobby of the hotel and paid. I asked them to call an auto to take me to the bus stand. I do not remember how I reached it, but I recall clearly that it was raining and how I was walking through the wet mud and puddles. Somewhere in the middle of the bus stand there was a kind of small building with unknown purpose made out of concrete. I was sliding down the wall of the cabin, right into the mud. This was where my body belonged to. All around me, hundreds of people were rushing, screaming and pushing. Who cared for a crazy foreigner, probably some drug addict who would die soon? Good riddance. Suddenly I realized that the most important moment in my life had come. The moment I had aspired for so much, I had suffered for, and I had yearned and prayed for. I had lived for desperately all these weeks and months. The moment had come. I was called to go home. I was to leave my body and enter the next layer of existence. And I was ready for it. Deep gratitude was surging. I prepared myself. Source and she herself were calling me, granting me entry into heaven. I closed my eyes. And exactly at this point of time, some kind of blue-colored vibration came. I cannot even begin to describe it. And also, it would not be in accordance with my integrity to use words for it. It came, interfered, and made clear that I was to stay. Deal with my body life and outer existence. I was not to leave. I stopped with whatever I was doing. Then I slowly obeyed, committing. And I had no choice. The instructions came strong and steady. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And I did. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. I slowly managed. Whatever was coming, came. And I was breathing. I felt the force pervading my body. I accepted, letting go. And finally even mentally realized that I was not to leave my body, but to help to transform it. And there was no choice. I remember only pieces of some scenes how I got home. There was suddenly a kind man pulling me out of the mud, supporting me, and pulling me into the direction of some bus that hopefully would take me home, overcrowded, and the driver agreeing to have me lying on top of the gasoline tank next to him. 14 hours lost from memory. But, surprisingly, I even could communicate to him where I had to get down, in the middle of the road, 10 minutes distance from my place and house. And I reached. No idea how. 13th September 2017. As mentioned in one of my previous videos, I much later understood that the energy coming from the bottom of my spine at that time, about 30 years ago, was so strong that the blockages and impurities still contained in my mental, vital and physical bodies, and from there being transferred to the energetic body, had caused its temporary collapse. Along with this collapse, several physical nerve and coordination centers got switched off. For instance, for 3 months I could not count numbers anymore. And I had forgotten how was one doing body exercises, as weird as it may sound. I just did not know anymore, for instance, push-ups. Instead, I continuously experienced a roaring red-orange fire coming from the area below my solar plexus. It looked and felt literally like a blazing volcano, engulfing the whole of my body, causing indescribable pain all over. I was so scared of it that I was even avoiding to remember it. But as soon as I closed my eyes, it was there. I hardly was sleeping nor eating. I had no idea how I survived. And good luck for me that I was all alone and nobody knew about my situation. After 3 months or so, the symptoms gradually subsided. But from then on, my daily sleep was reduced to 4 hours only. And each time I put my attention on any part of my body, it became hot like an oven. I remember the games I was playing with myself, making different organs and parts of my body hot. Or I was standing in front of a mirror, focusing my attention in turn of each ear and observing curiously how they became red and felt burning instantly. Thanks for your attention and namaste.